The misters kick on again, and there's that sound. That slow, pressurized hiss that makes everything in the greenhouse feel like it's being held underwater. Ferns dripping. Stone paths darkening in uneven patches. And Lisa. Lisa is sitting on a wooden bench between two women she's known for 6 years, pulling a dead leaf off a plant that doesn't have any dead leaves. She finds one anyway. Peels it slow, folds it in half between her thumb and index finger, then quarters, then eighths. Then she's just rolling the dust of it between her fingertips like she's trying to erase it from ever having been attached to anything. Janet is talking. Monique is laughing. They're both angled slightly forward, toward each other, and Lisa is the hinge between them that neither door is swinging on anymore. She smiles. Not because anything is funny, because Monique glanced in her direction for a half second on accident, the way you'd glance at a stranger's bag on the seat next to you to make sure it isn't in your way. Tuesday afternoon. Botanical garden. Bright, warm, green, alive. And she is so precisely still. Here's what happened, and it's so small it almost doesn't deserve a story, which is exactly why it's going to eat her alive for the next 6 months. 8 days ago, the neighborhood book club group chat pinged with the annual question. Same question every year. So, are we doing the block party planning at Lisa's again? And every year for the past 4 years, Lisa typed the same thing. Of course, I'll do a taco spread, just bring drinks. And then spent 11 days cleaning a house that was already clean, buying platters she'd use once, and turning her dining room into a command center for an event that 37 people attend and exactly 0 people thank her for by name. This year, she typed 5 words. I can't this time. That's it. Friendly. A heart emoji even. Not cold, not aggressive, not passive. Just a complete sentence with a period that nobody expected to see from her. And what followed was nothing. That's the thing. Nothing happened. Nobody was cruel, nobody kicked her out, nobody even asked why. Monique replied, "No worries." And then Karen, who hadn't been active in the chat for 3 months, jumped in within 90 seconds to offer her living room, and the planning continued in a thread Lisa was still technically a part of, but was no longer being spoken to inside of. The replies to her got shorter. 1 word, 2 words. The emoji reactions on her messages, the little hearts and the thumbs up that don't mean anything until they disappear. They just stopped. Like someone turned off a faucet so gently you don't hear the squeak. You just suddenly notice the silence where water used to be. 72 hours. That's all it took for 6 years of hosting and driving and showing up with containers of homemade soup when someone's kid was sick to get recalibrated. And now she's here. Botanical garden, Tuesday. Sitting between Janet and Monique on a bench that fits 3 people, if the middle person doesn't breathe too wide. Janet is describing a brunch. This Sunday, a new place on Maple with the outdoor patio and the lavender mimosas. She's describing it to Monique. Not to the bench, not to the group, to Monique. And Lisa is close enough to feel Janet's elbow shift when she gestures, close enough to smell her perfume, close enough to hear every single word, and not one of those words has been aimed at her. Lisa reaches for another leaf. This one is green, alive. She pulls it anyway, then looks at it in her hand like she didn't mean to, and sets it gently on the bench beside her, like she's placing it in a casket. She's cataloging. That's what she's doing right now underneath that smile. She's running an inventory so detailed it would make her district manager weep. Janet said, "We should," 4 times in the last 2 minutes. We means Janet and Monique. It doesn't mean 3. Monique crossed her legs toward Janet, away from Lisa. Twice. Then uncrossed and recrossed without ever once orienting her knee toward the middle of the bench. The brunch has a date, a time, a restaurant, and a vibe, and Lisa has not been told any of this information. She has overheard it. There's a difference. Being told is being included. Overhearing is being geography. She's just where the sound happens to land. So she does what she does. She laughs a half-second late when Monique says something about the mimosas being dangerous. She angles her body toward them. Open posture, soft face, available. The way she stands at the register when a customer is upset, and she needs them to believe she is a person who cares about their expired coupon. She nods. She hums. She makes herself a warm surface that's easy to be next to and absolutely impossible to need. And the misters cycle on again, that long, slow hiss pressing everything down, and a stranger's phone call bounces off the greenhouse glass in fragments. Just a voice with no context, saying, "Yeah, no, I told her. I told her already." And Lisa folds her hands in her lap and thinks, I should have just said yes. I should have just bought the platters again. Now here's where the story turns ugly. Not ugly like someone did something wrong, ugly like someone did something precise. Because Lisa didn't say no because she was tired. She's tired, sure. She's been tired since 2014. Tired is her operating system at this point. It's not a reason for anything, it's just weather. No. She said no because she wanted to see what would happen when she stopped being the venue. When she removed the taco spread and the clean bathroom and the dining room table that seats 10, and the woman standing behind all of it making sure everyone's drink was full before she poured her own. She wanted to run a test. And that's the part she can't say out loud. Not to Janet, not to Monique, not to Robert, who would nod and say, "That sucks," and go back to whatever he was watching. Not even to herself, really, except in fragments. In the car, in the dark kitchen at midnight when the dishwasher's running, and the sound covers whatever her brain is doing. She engineered this. She built a clean little experiment with a control group and a variable, and the variable was her own absence, and the hypothesis was, nobody will come looking. And she was right. And being right is killing her so much slower than being wrong would have. Because now she's doing the math. Now she's going backward through 6 years of friendship with a calculator and a grudge, and every memory is getting reappraised at market value. Janet's birthday, 2021. Lisa made a 3-layer cake from scratch, not from a box, from flour, drove it across town in the passenger seat with a seatbelt around it, and stood in Janet's kitchen for 40 minutes arranging candles while everyone else was already on the patio with wine. Janet hugged her, said, "You're literally the best." And Lisa logged that. She filed it. She thought it meant something that could be withdrawn later, like a deposit into an account that would accumulate interest, and one day when she needed it, she could walk up to the counter and say, "I've put in enough. It's my turn now. See me." The midnight phone calls. Monique, 2 years ago, going through her divorce. Lisa on the phone until 1 a.m., then 2 a.m., then the phone hot against her ear at 2:47, while Monique sobbed about custody logistics, and Lisa said, "I'm here. I'm not going anywhere." And meant it. She meant it. But she also recorded it. Somewhere in the back of her mind, a tiny accountant in a gray office stamped "paid" on a ledger and moved on to the next column. The airport runs, the soup deliveries, the time she reorganized Karen's entire garage after the flood because it's no big deal, I'm good at this stuff. Every single act of service she ever performed was, and this is the part that makes her want to get up from this bench and leave her own body on it, Every single one was real and strategic at the same time. She meant it, and she was also buying something with it. Both things, simultaneously. And she doesn't know which one came first, and she's not sure it matters because the result is the same. She built a life where her only value to other people is operational, and she did it on purpose. And she did it because being needed is so much safer than being wanted, because needed has a contract, and wanted can just leave. And that's the door she keeps locking from the inside and then pressing her ear against to listen for footsteps. Because if she stops hosting and they stay, if she says, "I can't this time," and Janet texts her that night just to talk, just to say, "Hey, thinking of you, everything okay?" Then the entire system she's built falls apart. Then she's not the martyr. She's not the one who gives too much to people who don't deserve it. She's just a woman at a book club, ordinary, loved at a normal, room temperature amount. And that is somehow worse than being forgotten, because being forgotten confirms what she already knows, and being loved at room temperature means she's been wrong about all of it, about herself. She'd rather be right about being used than wrong about being loved. She needs to read that again. She would rather have proof that people only keep her around for what she provides than risk discovering that she is simply difficult to reach, that the distance isn't coming from them, that the wall between her and every person she's ever made a casserole for was built by her, brick by brick, recipe by recipe, and the mortar was every single favor she did that she pretended she didn't keep score on. The mister cycles on, hissing, that long, pressurized exhale that makes the ferns bow like they're too tired to stand. Lisa picks up the little piece of green leaf she set on the bench earlier, the one she pulled off a living plant. She looks at it like she's trying to remember why she put it there. Then she closes her hand around it and squeezes until it's nothing. And Monique says, "So Sunday, like 11-ish?" And Janet says, "Perfect, I'll make a reservation." And neither of them turns to the middle of the bench. And Lisa already knows what she's going to do. She knew before she sat down. Lisa's mind does this thing where it takes a single data point and builds an entire civilizational collapse out of it, like an architect working backward from rubble. So she's sitting on this bench, and Janet and Monique are making Sunday plans 6 inches from her face. And her brain grabs the not being asked, the not being turned to, and starts running it forward. Not days, not weeks, years. If these two can reclassify her in 72 hours over a declined hosting gig, then the math applies everywhere. Every friendship she has is running on the same invoice. Different names, same transaction. She's the woman who shows up with food. She's the woman who remembers your kid's allergy. She's the woman who says, "Don't worry about it," when you cancel last minute, because she trained herself a long time ago to never be the person who makes it hard on someone else. And the moment she stops performing that, the replies get shorter. So she does what she always does when the present gets too honest. She fast forwards. 5 years from now. Same garden, same bench probably. The wood a little more warped, the stone paths a little more cracked. Tuesday afternoon, Mister's cycling on and off, and Lisa is here, alone, not waiting for anyone, not between anyone, just here. One of those women you see in public spaces on a weekday and you think, without meaning to be cruel, but you think it, who is she talking to? Who knows she's here right now? She's got a book in her lap she's not reading. She's got sunglasses on, even though it's overcast. She's watching a couple in their 30s walk through the fern room, and the woman is laughing with her whole body, and the man is carrying her bag without being asked. And Lisa is studying them like a species she used to belong to. And the spiral keeps pulling. Because if every friendship is transactional, then so is the marriage. Then so is the house. Then the Tuesday night dinners where Robert sits across from her chewing and nodding, and she asks, "How was your day?" And he says, "Fine." And that's the whole thing. That's the full exchange. She gives the question, he gives the minimum. And she's been telling herself for years that it's just how men are. It's just the season they're in. But what if it's the same economy? What if Robert stays for the same reason Janet came to the planning meetings? Because the house is clean, and the fridge is full, and the schedule runs, and the machine keeps producing, and no one has to ask because Lisa already did it. What if she stopped doing it at home, too? What if she just sat down one day? Didn't cook, didn't clean, didn't ask about anyone's day, didn't manage the calendar or the groceries or the dog's vet appointment or Emma's registration deadline. Just sat on the couch and waited to see who came looking. She already knows. She already knows the answer, and that's why she won't do it. Because the botanical garden experiment was enough. One test was enough. She doesn't need to run it in every room of her life, because the results will be the same, and she is not strong enough to read them twice. So the spiral reaches the bottom. And at the bottom is this. Lisa, 60 years old, 65, 70, moving through spaces designed for groups, alone. A woman who became so good at providing that when she stopped providing, she simply evaporated. Not with a fight, not with a door slam, just a slow fade out. Like a group chat that nobody officially leaves, but nobody posts in anymore. She'll still be in it. She'll just never be addressed. And the worst part, the absolute gutter of this whole thing, is that she can see it. She can see every inch of it. She's watching it happen right now, on this bench, in real time. And she is going to do absolutely nothing to stop it. Because Lisa is already standing up. She's smoothing her pants with both hands, running her palms down her thighs like she's pressing the wrinkles out of the last 45 minutes. And she's smiling. A real smile, technically, in the sense that the muscles are doing what muscles do. And she says, "This was so nice." She hugs Janet. She hugs Monique. Both hugs are warm and appropriate and last exactly the right amount of time because Lisa has never in her life delivered a hug that made someone uncomfortable. She is calibrated. She is excellent at the departure. And she's walking toward the parking lot, and her phone is already in her hand, and her thumb is already hovering over the group chat, and she's composing it in her head before her shoes hit the asphalt. "Hey, so I was thinking, I actually can host this year. My schedule cleared up. Same setup as always?" She'll add the emoji. She'll add the exclamation point. She'll make it sound breezy and generous, and like it just occurred to her, like the last 8 days didn't happen, like the experiment never ran, like the data doesn't exist. And they'll say, "OMG, yay!" And the hearts will come back, and the replies will get longer, and Sunday brunch will suddenly have a third chair, and everything will go back to exactly the way it was. And she will never, ever mention this again. The misters are gone. The ferns are gone. The greenhouse glass and the stranger's phone call and Monique's laugh, all of it gone. Just the inside of a car in a parking lot. Engine off, hands on the steering wheel at 10 and 2, going nowhere. Lisa stares through the windshield at the garden entrance. A woman she doesn't know walks in carrying a stroller. A man holds the door open for no one, then lets it close. Her thumb is still on the screen. The text is typed. The cursor is blinking. She presses send. Then she puts the phone face down on the passenger seat, leans her head back against the headrest, and closes her eyes. And she sits there. And she sits there. And the parking lot is so quiet you could hear a leaf hit the ground, if there were any left to fall.